Mrs. Valerie critically looked at her son's fiancée, whom he took home today to introduce to his mother. She wrinkled her nose and said nothing, and then left for the kitchen. Ellen looked at Thomas in surprise and asked, "How was that? Is something wrong?" "Don't worry about it. My mother is always like that, but when you get to know her, you'll see she's a good woman," Thomas reassured her. Ellen already had some doubts about whether Mrs. Valerie was a good person, but she said nothing because she didn't want to offend Thomas. "Let's go into the living room. The table's already set." "Wait here, and I'll go help my mom," Thomas suggested. Ellen sat on the edge of a chair and looked around the spacious living room. Thomas lived out of town in a huge mansion. She could see the forest from the window and smell the pleasant scent of leaves and pine needles. The girl took a deep breath, thought about the reason she was there, and tried to ignore everything that had happened. Still, it was very unpleasant for Ellen. Thomas walked into the room with a tray of roasted duck on it. The smell was amazing. Ellen felt her stomach rumble with hunger. She was very nervous, so she didn't eat anything today. She scolded herself. She should have eaten at least one sandwich. Mom is an excellent cook. I love everything she cooks. She has a special roasted duck recipe that has been passed down from generation to generation, Thomas explained. Yes, I already got that because it smells really delicious, Ellen replied. Mrs. Valerie came into the room. She looked at the table sternly and then shouted, "Anna, I told you to put white napkins with blue flowers on the table, and you put blue napkins with white flowers. Change it right now." Looking surprised at the girl who rushed into the living room and changed the napkins at lightning speed, Ellen whispered to Thomas, "Who's that?" "She helps my mother around the house. She's our maid," Thomas explained. "Wow," was all Ellen could say. Finally, everything is ready. "Welcome to the table," Mrs. Valerie said and sat down at the head of the table. "Mom, where's Dad? He was going to have dinner with us today, wasn't he?" "Dad left for the office. Some urgent business came up. I didn't expect that either because it's a weekend, and he left for work. But business is business. There's nothing you can do about it," Thomas explained. Ellen, feeling sick after those awful words, wondered what was her fault that her parents died, and she and her grandmother were left alone. Her appetite immediately disappeared. The girl stood up from the table and said, "I should go. Thank you for dinner. It was very nice to meet you." "Ellen, where are you going?" "Wait, please don't go," Thomas pleaded. "That's not what Mom wanted to say," Mrs. Valerie interjected. "No, that's exactly what I wanted to say," Mrs. Valerie insisted. Thomas interrupted, "Mom, stop it." He followed Ellen as she walked down the beautiful alley, breathing heavily and not stopping for a second. Thomas shouted something after her, but she didn't want to see him. Perhaps her grandmother was right when she told Ellen that Thomas was not her hero. Ellen hadn't believed her. She was sure that if they loved each other, everything else was no big deal. But now she realized that love was not enough. In addition to love, there were parents, especially Thomas's mother. Most likely, she had already found a suitable fiancé for her only son and was just trying to get rid of Ellen. And most likely, the other fiancé was from high society. A BMW pulled up next to her, and Thomas said, "Don't be silly, get in the car. I'll drive you home." Ellen didn't want to go home with Thomas right now. However, she realized she was out of the city now, and it would be difficult for her to get home. "Well, baby, don't be mad at Mom. I really didn't tell her anything about you. I thought I'd introduce you, and that would be enough." Ellen looked out the window at the trees flying by and thought that even if Thomas had told his parents about Ellen's fate, nothing would have changed. "Thomas, your mother will never accept me. But you knew that from the beginning. And since you love your mother very much, please do whatever she tells you to do." "Just leave me alone," Ellen said. "I don't understand. What are you talking about? We have to break up?" Thomas asked incredulously. "I realized it as soon as I saw your mom. I know women like that. If you go against her, she'll do everything to keep us apart. And I don't want that." Let's break up now so it won't hurt even more later, Ellen explained. Don't talk nonsense. I don't need anybody but you. I'll talk to my mother and explain everything, and you'll see that she'll accept you, Thomas insisted. No, she won't accept me, Thomas. Don't you understand that I'm not from high society? I'm just a simple girl with no parents, raised by my grandmother who worked 3 jobs to make sure I had everything. She did everything to make sure I graduated with honors from high school and entered university. And I am not ashamed of my family. On the contrary, I am proud of my grandmother. I understand that if my parents were alive, I would have been rich too. But things don't always work out the way we want them to, so you and I cannot go the same way, Ellen said. Thomas was silent. He said nothing to Ellen, knowing that his words meant nothing now. The girl needed to calm down a bit. He would talk to her again tomorrow. They pulled up in front of her house. Ellen left the car and rushed to the entrance without even saying goodbye to him. He sighed as he looked after her, then turned around and drove home. The guy dared to have a serious conversation with his mother. He was crazy about Ellen and didn't want to lose her. Mom, what kind of person are you? Did you marry Dad just because he was rich and from a decent family? Thomas questioned. No, of course not, but I saw potential in your father. I knew he would achieve a lot in life, and as you can see, I wasn't wrong. So believe me, I wasn't wrong about Ellen either. Before it's too late, break up with her and find yourself a normal girl from our circle, Mrs. Valerie advised. I love her, Mom. I'm not going to leave her. I don't need anyone else. I'll only marry her, Thomas declared. At this time, the father came home and said cheerfully, Did you all eat the duck, or did you leave some for me too? We didn't eat anything, Dad. I invited Ellen today to introduce her to Mom, but she hurt Ellen, Thomas explained. Dad stopped smiling and looked at his wife sternly. You shouldn't do that. Ellen is a wonderful girl. After graduation, she will work for our company because I don't want to lose such a smart professional. Do you even know that she is smarter than any of us? She decoded all the codes in my computer in 5 minutes and told me that my horrible employees had set up such bad codes that even a toddler could crack them. Keep in mind, our son loves her, and she loves him too. And I won't let you ruin his fate. Do you understand? Call Ellen right now, or go to her. In general, do whatever you want, but apologize to her, otherwise, you won't like the consequences. Mrs. Valerie stormed into her room, slamming the door loudly. She was furious. The two of them were crazy about that stupid girl, but Valerie was stubborn. If she didn't like Ellen, there was no turning back. Valerie would do anything to separate her son from that girl. Thomas waited impatiently for Ellen outside the university, but she wasn't there. He called her, but she didn't pick up the phone. Then he dialed his father's number to ask for his advice. Dad, Ellen didn't come. I don't know what to do, Thomas said. Go to the university and don't worry. I'll call her myself and talk to her. Right now, I'm in a meeting, so I'll call you later. Bye, son, Dad reassured him. Ellen cried the entire night. Her grandmother didn't bother her because she knew it was better for her granddaughter to be alone right now. She understood that Ellen was in love with Thomas, but what had happened at their house yesterday had pissed her off. How could a woman say that? Her grandmother thought, even if she didn't like the girl, who gave her the right to insult her? Grandma, I'm not going to the institute today, Ellen said in the morning as she entered the kitchen. I don't want everyone to see me like this. My face is swollen, and my eyes are red. I'll be bombarded with questions about what's wrong. My friends won't leave me alone until they know what happened. I'm afraid they'll fight with Thomas because of me. I don't want it. After all, whatever happened yesterday wasn't his fault. Well, maybe you're right, maybe you're not. But now, tell me, what have you decided? Grandma asked. I don't know, Grandma. I love him, and I know I can't live without him anymore. But yesterday, I realized that his mother would not let us live in peace. I could see in her eyes how much she hated me. But I really couldn't understand why she had so much hatred for me, Ellen confessed. I don't know. I guess she has different plans for her son. She said that they are very rich, so I guess she wants a rich fiancé for her only son, Grandma. Is that really possible? Are we stuck in the Middle Ages? Because I'm going to have a very good income myself after I graduate. When Thomas's father wrote my future salary on a piece of paper, it even made me dizzy. How does he feel about you? Does he know about you and Thomas? Grandma asked. He does. Thomas has already told him everything about me. He treated me well, and after I helped him with something, he offered me a job at his company after graduation. He told Thomas to take care of me and to keep an eye on me because there are very few professionals like me, and their competitors might offer me a job, you know, Ellen explained. The fact that Thomas's father is on your side is a very good sign. Don't let your emotions decide for you. Give Thomas a second chance. If he loves you, his mother's words won't mean anything to him, Grandma advised. You're right. We live in a modern world, and he can go against his mother to be with you. Besides, only his father earns money in their family, right? His mother just enjoys her life, Ellen concluded. Yes, Mrs. Valerie never worked at all. Moreover, they also have maids at home. Wow, she probably thinks she's the queen. All right, let's have breakfast, and then you can relax. Yesterday was a stressful day, so don't think about anything. Just get some rest, Grandma suggested. Ellen was lying on the bed, reading a book. She turned off her phone because she had been getting calls since early morning, but she didn't feel like talking to anyone. She would sort it all out tomorrow, but today she just needed to relax and chill her mind. She heard the doorbell ring, but she didn't pay much attention to it because her grandmother often invited her friends over for tea. Yes, she's home, Ellen heard her grandmother say and sat on the bed. Who is that? Ellen got worried. She heard a man's voice and realized it was Thomas's father. Ellen put a robe over her t-shirt and walked out of the room. Hello, she said quietly. Eldon, you scared me. I've been calling you since morning. I thought something happened. Are you all right? I'm fine, no need to worry. I can't help but worry about you. You're not only a future family member, but also a future employee of my company. Ellen is not just smart and hardworking, she's a true genius, he turned to Grandma. Why don't we have a cup of tea and talk? Sounds great. Besides, I bought a cake. Ellen, it's your favorite chocolate cake. Ellen blushed. She remembered that she had once told at their office that she eats chocolate all the time because it helps her to focus. From that day on, there were always a couple of chocolate bars on her desk. She even had her own desk at their office by then, since sometimes she worked there after classes at the university. They had tea and talked. Thomas's father apologized instead of his wife and said she didn't mean to offend anyone. Besides, she didn't know anything about Ellen, and that's why she reacted that way. Ellen could not believe that Thomas's mother didn't know. However, the girl said nothing about it. She knew that the man sincerely wanted to apologize. Thomas showed up at Ellen's house in the evening as usual, knowing that his father had already talked to her and sorted everything out. They decided to go to the cinema and invite their friends Max and Monica. Can we go without them? I just want to spend time with you after what happened last night. I was afraid I might lose you. I couldn't sleep all night. I thought I was going crazy. No, Monica asked that we invite them both. You know she likes Max. She wants to spend time with him, and he's avoiding her all the time. I know, and I even know the girl he likes. Come on, you know we're just friends, but I'm jealous anyway. You shouldn't be. We've known each other since we were kids, and it just so happens that Max is just a friend to me. And I've never looked at him from any other angle. Never say never. Anyway, I hope it remains that way. By the way, as soon as we graduate from university, we'll get married right away. I've already made up my mind. Thomas, why are you in such a hurry? I want to work, build a career. But I understand that as soon as we get married, you will forbid me to work. I wouldn't if it wasn't for my father. He talked me into it by telling me you'd be in his sight all the time, and he'd look after you. I don't understand. Aren't you going to work for your father? Well, that was the plan at first, but now Dad's expanding the company and giving me a branch on the other side of the city. So now I'm going to be in charge of our production there. I see. I thought we were going to work together. Well, I thought so too, but my father insisted on this solution. He doesn't trust anyone, and I'm the most suitable candidate. After the movie, they all went to a cafe. The girls ordered ice cream, and the guys had a cocktail. Ellen watched her friend Monica make every effort to get Max to pay attention to her, but Ellen's friend wasn't the only one who was crazy about him. Half the girls at the university liked this handsome guy. Max was incredibly handsome and also very smart. He was already making good money, and his father said that at his age, even he was not so hardworking and diligent, though he had started his fortune from scratch and no one helped him. Everybody saw that Max had a brilliant future because he had already achieved great success in business at such a young age. Max always managed to get everything he wanted except one thing. He was in love with Ellen, but Ellen loved Thomas. He didn't understand what she saw in him. Thomas wasn't a bad guy, but still, something about him always bothered him. Though his father was a friend of Max's father, the boy knew him to be a very kind and decent man. Thomas and Max had also known each other since childhood, but their friendship shattered when he introduced him to Ellen. They had a lovely evening, and then Thomas took Ellen home, and Max reluctantly agreed to drive Monica home. Max, don't be such a nerd. Have you noticed the way she looks at you? Ellen whispered to him on the way out of the cafe. Think about it, she's cool. The only girl I know is you. After graduation, 2 families were getting ready for a wedding. Grandma was worried and said they shouldn't get married so soon. She insisted that the girl needed to live for herself and not rush into married life. Thomas's mother felt the same way, and she was against this wedding, but she didn't say anything about it. She didn't dare disobey her husband, who told her not to interfere with her son's love. They decided to have the wedding outdoors near their mansion. There was a huge area with a beautiful garden. One table was set for the guests to go and take drinks and small canapes. It was a light snack to make the waiting pleasant. The second table was set a little further away so that when the bride and groom arrived, everyone could go and sit at it to celebrate the wedding. Mrs. Valerie had been running from one table to the other since morning, making sure that everything was perfect so she wouldn't embarrass herself in front of her guests. She didn't like the color of the napkins again, the tablecloths weren't the shade she wanted, and the wine glasses didn't sparkle in the sun the way she wanted them to. Finally, after exhausting all the staff who had been working hard since early morning, she made her way to the house with a sense of accomplishment to dress up before her son's marriage registration. Ellen stood in front of the mirror and did not recognize herself. "Grandma, is that really me?" "Of course, it's you, my little girl," Grandma mumbled, wiping away her tears. "You look so much like your mother." Tears came to Ellen's eyes too when she thought of her parents. She wished they could have been with her at that moment as well. But then, pulling herself together, she turned to her grandmother, hugged her, and said, "Don't cry, Grandma. I'm with you. You and I will always be okay. Do you trust me?" Monica sighed enviously, looking at Ellen, and then she couldn't stand it and said, "When will you throw the bride's bouquet? Look where I am, so I will be the one to catch it. I really want to marry Max, and if I catch the bouquet at the wedding, I'll definitely marry him. I made a wish." "Okay, I'll check out where you'll be standing." "Does Max know about your plans?" "Not yet, but I'm strong. I'll get what I want anyway, and he'll marry me." Ellen came out of her house and met her eyes with Thomas, who was waiting outside the car. Ellen noticed that Thomas looked at her with eyes full of admiration. The girl was so happy, and she didn't notice another look filled with such intense love for her. If she had seen it, maybe she would have thought she was too fast in their choice, and the wedding should be postponed. Max turned away, realizing that he was ready to kidnap Ellen to keep them from getting married. But at the same time, he saw how happy she was, and he would never hurt the girl, and he wasn't going to interfere with her happiness. After the wedding, the young couple decided to go on vacation. Ellen had never been abroad, so Thomas's father suggested the idea to his son, take Ellen to Paris. All girls dream of a honeymoon in Paris. Look, you got such a wife that everyone envies you. Just remember that and don't you dare hurt her. After the trip, Ellen began working full-time for the company. Since she was now living with Thomas's parents, work was her sanctuary. Mrs. Valerie never openly confronted her, but she showed in every way how much she hated Ellen. Ellen didn't understand why her mother-in-law hated her so much. However, she felt that there was some reason behind it all. The young girl knew that her mother-in-law dreamed that her son would marry one of her acquaintances, Nellie, a pretty girl who lived together with her family. They were also very rich, and in addition, that girl had studied abroad. Valerie must have thought that Nellie was a better match for her son. After work, the newlyweds would go downtown to meet their friends who were always happy to see them. Owen had hoped that Max would start to get closer to her friend after the wedding, but that didn't happen. Besides, Max told her at the time that it wasn't going to work out, an astronaut to waste her time. Monica was very upset but didn't give up hope. Thomas's father made a contract with a foreign company and asked Ellen to double-check everything. She had to do everything in such a way that no hacker would be able to break their system because it could result in losing a lot of money. For days, Ellen worked without rest, day and night. She created such a system that no one could break through it. Now, in addition, while checking everything properly, she noticed that almost every day someone was trying to hack into their system. So someone else knew about this deal. She told this to Thomas's father, who was already used to trusting her and understood that if Ellen said something, it must be true. It's strange because only 3 people know about it, you, me, and Thomas. Did Mrs. Valerie know? She knew, but she doesn't understand anything about it. I don't even take her into account. Okay, it's just that she might have accidentally said something to her friends. Well, it's possible. I mean, she talked to them for hours. It's strange why her tongue doesn't hurt after such long conversations. When Ellen finished her work, she came into her father-in-law's office. He looked at her and told her to go home and get some rest. I'll tell my driver to drive you home. You should get some sleep. You look tired. Ellen didn't argue. She already felt like she was about to pass out. Thanks, I'll get my jacket and go. Go get some rest. I'll tell Tom to take you somewhere for the weekend. You deserve it. Ellen wanted to object, but she had no strength, so she just nodded. When she arrived home, she went straight to her and Tom's room. She decided to take a shower and go to bed. The shower wasn't working for some reason, so she decided to go downstairs to take a bath in the other bathroom. There were 3 bathrooms in the mansion. She was on her way to the bathroom when the door opened, and a naked man, Nellie's father, stepped out. After a moment of awkward silence, Ellen blushed and quickly turned away. Sorry, the shower in our room doesn't work, so I decided to go to the guest bathroom. He wanted to say something, but then Mrs. Valerie came out of the shower with the words, "Honey, where are you? I'm waiting for you." She didn't get a chance to finish the sentence because she saw a mute picture of her lover trying to cover himself and Ellen, who turned away, burning with embarrassment. Mrs. Valerie was thinking of what to say. The man quickly slipped into the room. Ellen didn't wait either and ran quickly into the bathroom and locked the door. In the shower, she thought about what she had just seen. Now it was clear why her mother-in-law was so anxious for Thomas to marry Nellie. She wanted to be closer to her lover, Nellie's father. And then she suddenly realized their competitor knew about a secret deal with a foreign company. Valerie told him about it. That's why her security program was under constant attack. She understood everything. The first thing she wanted to do was to tell her father-in-law, but then, after thinking about it, she signaled to be quiet. She didn't feel sleepy, so she quietly changed her clothes, called a cab, and drove to her grandmother's house. She needed to talk to someone about what she had seen, and her grandmother was the only one she could talk to about it. "What a shame," her grandmother said. You were right not to tell anyone about it. You'd better stay out of it. They have to sort it out on their own, and if you get involved in their family problems, you'll regret it. They'll blame you for all their sins. Thomas's father should know that the competitors found out about the deal, and in such a terrible way. Yes, he should, but how are you going to explain it to him? He'll ask you where the information came from, and what will you tell him? I don't know, Grandma, but I can't keep quiet either. I have to warn him. Thomas picked up Ellen and took her home. I was really scared when I got home, and you weren't there. Besides, my father said he let you go home to get some rest. You're pale, why didn't you just go to bed? I wanted to see my grandmother, and besides, I really don't feel well. I feel nauseous and dizzy all the time. You really need to rest. It's probably just stress. Ellen was getting worse, and she decided to go to the hospital. Thomas's father insisted that his son drive her there and find out what was wrong. After tests and a checkup, the doctor told them that Ellen was pregnant. When Thomas arrived home for dinner, he told his parents about it. Mrs. Valerie did not react in any way. She tried to ignore Ellen. But the grandfather-to-be was very happy because he had wanted grandchildren for a long time. Mrs. Valerie walked around her room, did not know what to do. After Ellen found out she was expecting a baby, the girl started working remotely and never left the house. It made Valerie very nervous. Besides, she realized that as long as Ellen lived there, she would feel annoyed all the time. Valerie could not accept the situation, so every day she thought of how she could get rid of her daughter-in-law. The opportunity came quite unexpectedly. An accident happened in one of the branches of the company, so her husband and son left for another city. Mrs. Valerie didn't waste a minute and went to Ellen's room. You have 1 hour to pack and get out of our house. I'll tell my son that you cheated on him and got pregnant by someone else. I'll find proof, you know he'll believe me. He still loves you, so he's jealous. And keep in mind, in your condition, it's better not to argue with me. You should obey and leave quietly. How can you do that? Thomas and I are about to have a baby. I don't care about your baby. If you don't leave, I'll turn your life into a nightmare. You'll regret that you were born. Ellen did not argue with Mrs. Valerie, knowing that this woman could do anything. She packed and went to her grandmother's, thinking that most likely, when Thomas returned, he would come to pick her up. Then she would tell him everything openly and honestly. But days went by, then weeks, and Thomas never came. When the courier delivered the notice that she had been fired, she knew it was over. The only thing she couldn't understand was why Thomas didn't even try to talk to her. He talked about how much he loved her, but he never took any action, which meant that his love for her was worthless. Ellen looked for a new job, but it was all to no avail because as soon as they found out she was pregnant, they immediately turned her down. Employers said that after she gave birth, they would be happy to hire her. The girl had lost hope, but one day Max, who had been abroad all that time, came to see her. Crying, she told him everything. After listening, he said, "Well, you are hired. Tomorrow is your first working day. I really need a good programmer." He approached her, hugged her shoulders, and added, "Don't cry, everything is going to be all right." Thomas returned from his business trip, and the first thing he did was rush to Ellen's room because he missed her so much. But the room was empty. When he went downstairs and decided to ask his mother where his wife was, she replied, "That pregnant prostitute and her lover ran away when I caught them here at home." Good for her, she escaped quickly. I couldn't take her lies anymore. What the hell? What lover? What are you talking about? Thomas didn't understand. And I told you that from the beginning, but you didn't want to notice it. And this is what we ended up with. She got pregnant by another man, claiming it was your baby. It's okay, you were blinded by love. But she could not fool me. She thought I left, then I caught them right at our house. Dear son, you're a grown man, you have to make your own decision. But I believe that this should not be forgiven. I've lived with your father for years, and I've never cheated on him. I'm just well aware that a woman should not do that." Thomas couldn't believe what he was hearing, but his mother slipped him the facts in a calm voice. "Haven't you noticed that she's been going to her grandmother's house a lot lately? As soon as you got married, she started visiting her very often, almost every day. And I think she's been acting differently to you too." "Yes, I noticed that, but I thought she had something to tell me all the time." "No, my dear, she was just trying to hide the cheating, and she was afraid that you would find out." After talking to his mother, Thomas couldn't stay home, so he went to his father to tell him everything. "Now I understand why my system was of such interest to her. After all, only the three of us knew about this deal. She probably told about it to her lover. Son, you should divorce that poisonous snake as soon as possible. Get her out of your heart and forget her. This woman has no place in our family." Thomas had many doubts, but his mother's daily stories drove him crazy, and now he was really thinking about how blind love is. It turned out that his wife had been cheating on him the whole time, and he hadn't seen a thing. When her husband's lawyer came to Ellen and brought the divorce papers, she calmly signed them. "You didn't even read them." "I mean, it says you don't get anything," he wondered. "I don't want anything from them," Ellen replied calmly, stroking her large belly. When Thomas saw the lawyer who had just returned from Ellen, he asked him to come to his office. "So how did it go? Did she yell when she found out she wouldn't get a penny after the divorce?" "You won't believe it. I've been a divorce lawyer for years, but this is the first time I've seen a woman sign such documents with joy." "What do you mean?" "She was very happy when I came to her and explained what the matter was. She brightened up with joy, then quickly read the papers and signed them with a smile. So there was no problem at all." For some reason, Thomas was not happy with the news. Somehow he thought Ellen would be crying, begging him not to do it. Or on the contrary, he thought she would start swearing that he didn't give her anything. He had even prepared a speech where he wanted to tell her everything he thought of her, but it didn't work out. Ellen surprised him again. Things in business got very bad. The scale of production dropped sharply. It seemed the business was about to go bankrupt. The head of the company was shocked to learn that Nellie's father had been competing with him the whole time, and they wanted to marry their only son to her. When he learned this, he drove to him to have a serious talk. On the way, he got the idea that he was Ellen's lover and that she was leaking information to him. "I can't believe my eyes, my friend. It's so nice to see you. I hope you didn't come to fight, otherwise, my people will kick you out of here." "Don't worry, I didn't come here to fight. I only wanted to ask one question. Wasn't my daughter-in-law who leaked all the information to you? Were you two lovers?" "What? Seriously? Oh, that's why your son divorced her. Geez, are you stupid? I still don't know how I did it, but I accomplished all my goals. I took everything from you and made sure you fired your daughter-in-law, who was smarter than any of you. Later, I invited her to work for me, but she refused. It's a pity. I could have worked something out, but she has such a patron that I shouldn't even try to bother her." "Patron, so she wasn't the one who leaked the information to you?" "Of course not. She loved your son and would never do something like that. Your beloved wife did it. We were lovers, and she told me everything, dummy." Thomas's father drove home with only one thought in mind, to talk to his wife. When he entered the house, he saw his son. He was sitting with his mother on the terrace, talking about something. "She did it. It's all her fault," the man began, looking at his wife, but he felt sick and passed out. Thomas left the hospital and walked to the exit through the park. An elegant girl with a baby in her arms was walking toward him. The girl was dressed in pink and looked like an angel. She was holding her mother and looked around curiously. As he got closer, he recognized Ellen. She was even more beautiful now. It was as if she had blossomed. "Ellen," Thomas said, not believing his eyes. She looked to him, smiling demurely, and said, "Yes, Thomas, it's me. Have I changed that much?" "Yes, you've gotten even prettier. Why don't we go somewhere and talk? Why do we have something to talk about? I realized that when you left me, not everything they said about you was true. Why don't you tell me everything? Isn't it too late for you to find out the truth? She asked quietly. My father is in severe condition in the hospital. We're bankrupt. In order to pay off the debts, we sold the cars, the mansion, so I'm walking now. I don't even have a car. Okay, let's talk, but I'm not going anywhere with you. Let's just sit on the bench and talk right here. Ellen dialed a number, said something to someone, but Thomas couldn't hear it. But after 5 minutes, he understood everything. A tall guy in black walked up to Ellen. He held out his huge hands to the child. The girl smiled and reached for him. Who is that? That's my guard. So, I see you're a high-flying bird, Thomas. I don't want to discuss my financial situation with you. It's none of your business. And I believe that's not what you wanted to talk about. They talked for an hour. Ellen told him everything in detail. When Thomas realized what a terrible mistake he had made and whom he had lost, he could not hold back his tears. After all, if he hadn't listened to his mother, who had bankrupted them, he would be fine now. Okay, Thomas, I have to go. Would you like to start all over again with me? No, Ellen. I'm married. I'm married to the man I love more than life. Now I see that you don't know how to love, and you never loved me. We spent an hour with you and talked only about you and your family. You never found out about your daughter, and you never even asked about her. So goodbye. I'm glad we broke up. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.